Welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. The crossroads where culture, lifestyle, and community meet, all hosted by the legendary New York radio TV personality and proud Harlem American, G. Keith Alexander.
Thank you so much for joining us here. Welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. And wherever you are, I appreciate you for joining our neighborhood as we hang out together in Harlem, America. Today in the What's Hot Spotlight is actor, director, producer, Harry Lennix. Harry shot to fame by playing Terrence Williams in Robert Townsend's The Five Heartbeats and Boyd Langton in Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. He currently appears in the Blacklist and Billions, and his upcoming we'll ask him about his upcoming thing with Zack Snyder on Netflix called Army of the Dead. So with the power vested in me, which is close to nil, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to say that my special guest, Harry Lennix, is What's Hot. Hello, Harry.
G. Keith, great to be with you. Thank you for that robust introduction. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. You know, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a very, very long time because you are on one of my all-time favorite shows, The Blacklist, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But being that you and I both are from Chicago, let's take the Wayback Machine and tell me, what was it like for you growing up in Chicago?
Well, you know, it's interesting because summertime, as we approach it here in 2021, always reminds me of Chicago. It's hard for me not to compare any place I might be in the world with Chicago at that time. What I remember is the hot cement in the alleys, the garbage cans that we would stack on top of each other to play basketball. We'd have to climb up and get the ball out of those little metal cans. You remember those?
Oh yes, yes.
I grew up in a place that was an amalgamation of the North and the South. We had people who were from the city, but also people who were coming to the North from the southern states. So we had a lot of people from Mississippi. We had a lot of people from Louisiana, a fair amount. We had a fair amount from Alabama, Georgia. These people were coming up to the North to work in the steel mills, to work at the car plants when they were there. You know, they went to Detroit, of course, as well. But Chicago was the Black Muslims lived in the next block from us, and we would play in the summertime, and we would meet in the alley and play sports. And they were very smart. They were in school all year. Muhammad Ali didn't live far away. The Shylights were at day camp with us, you know.
Really?
From time. Yeah, so it was like, you know, it was a very heady time. There was a lot going on. It was the height of the Black Power movement. It was the height of the political tension that came about. You know, I grew up where I was born in 64. Of course, 1968 is very famous for what happened that summer in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention.
Right.
So I grew up with a strong, almost tyrannical Mayor Daley at that time. The old man.
Yes, I remember him.
Yeah, he was like a giant that loomed over the city. He really was.
He controlled Chicago with an iron fist.
Yeah, he did. He did. So that's what it was like. You know, I think. I guess I would have to include my having gone to Catholic schools. You know, this small little private school, parochial school, fewer students than the public schools. The dress code that we had, the uniforms we had to wear. I went on to the seminary, the high school seminary, to study to become a priest. So all of these things, all of these conflicting modes of life and understanding of God and understanding of politics and understanding of where the country was going to move to after the Vietnam War, all of these things were in flux, and I'm a product of that.
I see. Well, you know, we have some similarities because I too, having grown up in Chicago, quite familiar with alleys. People here in New York, so they don't know what an alley is, you know, and also you mentioned people coming up from the South, and that's why we used to call Chicago up South.
That's right.
Because all these folks would come, and if a person got a job in Chicago and did well, they would get a Buick Deuce and a quarter or a Cadillac and drive back down south to show people, hey, I'm doing well up here in Chicago, you know.
Yes, sir.
And then the other thing is, I too was being groomed to be a priest. I went to St. Agatha's grammar school on the West Side. And I used to be an altar boy, and I'd always serve the high masses and everything.
Yes, sir.
And I was supposed to be groomed to go to Quigley, like you.
Right.
And but one day a nun came around the corner from from the convent, and she caught me in a, how can I say, a very intimate. Well,
we refer to it, G. Keith, as in flagrante delicto.
Yes,
in flagrante delicto. Right.
Yes, and for our audience, tell them what that is.
It means you were caught in the act.
That's right. So this nun caught
sir.
me, and I'm hugging and squeezing on this young lady in my class, and she says to me, she called me by my first name, which I'm not going to disclose here, but it starts with a G, and she says, now don't you let them make you anything you really don't want to be.
Oh, wow.
So that's when I decided, well, maybe I shouldn't be a priest, because I was liking what I was doing, you know. So that kept me from going to Quigley and becoming a priest. But wow, that's interesting. So, all right. So now, when did you get the acting bug?
So this is something that I've thought a lot about in recent years, because I would have had a different answer 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I remember what got me sparked in the interest. So I would say that 20 years ago, I would have said I caught the acting bug while I was in my sophomore year at Quigley, when I was performing the role of Benny South Street in Guys and Dolls. I was 15. The pretty girls would come up to the seminary quickly, and you know, but I had a knack. I knew that I was, if you will, good at this. I knew I could memorize lines and move relatively, you know, elegantly to some extent. I was a quick study, that I had a big voice. I knew all of that. But that said, I think I got interested. I know I did. The first time I saw my brother Larry, who's no longer with us, but he was my oldest brother. He's 6 years older than me. So when he was in 8th grade, I was in 2nd grade, same school. He was in a skit, and downstairs of the church, we had this little auditorium, and we went and my brother played a gangster on a street corner who got hit in the head with a rolled up newspaper, which I thought was a stick. And in the skit, he gets hit and he falls out. And so I became immediately alarmed that my brother had been harmed in some way. And then a few minutes later, he walked out from the side entrance, and he was perfectly fine. He's wearing his school uniform again and so forth. And I was like, hey man, are you okay? He's like, hey man, I was just acting. And that was just a skit. That's just a story we were doing. And so I remember how he strutted out onto the stage. He wore a long sort of, you know, one of those pimp-like coats like Shaft or something, or the Fly or the Mac, and he had a hat on, but he got hit in the head with a paper. But I knew that was my brother underneath all of that costume, because he had, you know. But in any event, when he told me that it was just acting, I thought it was the greatest magic trick that I'd ever seen. It's like, you could pretend to be something that you're not. And I think that was it. I think that was the moment.
That was it, huh? Wow, incredible. Well, I did my first acting. I'm a SAG member and everything for the last 30 some years. So I guess I can attribute it partly to doing my first acting role in grammar school. There was this record called Charlie Brown, and I forget the name of the group.
He's a clown. Charlie Brown. Yeah. Why is everybody always picking on me? Love that song.
Right. So they had me play the role of Big Boy Pete on stage, and I came out and I did the whole thing, and that was the first time I got applause and everything, and I said, wow, this is pretty cool, and that's how I kind of got a bug for acting. Yeah. Wow, incredible. So all right, so now you go to Northwestern, great school. You got a scholarship. What did you study?
Well, I studied things mostly not acting. Northwestern is it's a liberal arts college, so you were required to take things outside of. It's not a conservatory, that is to say. Right. The conservatory, you're only doing things that apply to the craft, if you will. But at this place, I had to study a lot of other things, and so I primarily looked at African American history, sociology. Those were my main interests outside of the acting course of study. I had to take some languages, so I did a bit of Spanish, which was a continuation of my high school study. But I took some classes with people like Leon Forrest, who's a great novelist and a great teacher of writing. We had a tremendous sociology department at the time. Alice Palmer, who many people remember, her father was the famous Bud Palmer, her husband, I should say, was Bud Palmer. And she lived not too far from me, but she was, a tremendous teacher, and she was the head of the African American Student Affairs Department. I was the director in my senior year of the Black Student Union, which we call for members only. So, I like to study things that were in political science. I did a bit of work in, or a bit of exploration into Latin American politics. But yeah, I was interested in a broad range of things. I think all actors should be. I don't think conservatory really is the way to do it. If you're at a university, you should be studying the entire world, the whole universe, as a matter of fact. So I think that helps you become a better actor, to be a well-rounded citizen, because that's the template from which we draw, our characters.
Certainly. And I just want to interject. Excuse me. I just got a text from Troy Lewis, whom you met when we saw you do that the reading. He said that the group was called the Coasters. Yes, with Charlie Brown. Yeah,
the Coasters. That's right. Thank you.
Why is everybody always picking on me? Now, all right, and then you were also a school teacher for a while.
Yes, for many years in the Chicago public school system, which was, my upbringing, of course, was entirely Catholic, except for 1 year of kindergarten at the public school. But I taught the Chicago public school system in a place called Inglewood.
Yes.
Just across the street from Ogden Park.
Right. I know what that is.
Yep. Bass Elementary School. And so I primarily taught music.
Oh, really?
A couple of years I taught what would be called civics, I guess, social studies, if you will. But I taught music at the elementary level. I have some former students who are now professionals.
Oh, really?
Professional actors, yeah.
Anybody that we would know?
No, nobody that you would know. Yet.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, they were, I had them, they were babies. Like I didn't teach them to play anything, but in the course of their study, teach them harmonies and this kind of thing. We were a pretty tight little group there for a while. I had been in chorus and things like that myself, in high school, and was in the band in elementary school. I'm not an expert musician. I'm truly an amateur, but I had enough qualifications at that point to teach music at that level, elementary school. So,
well, that's a perfect segue for the film that so many of us loved, and I've seen it at least 3 or 4 times, The Five Heartbeats. Robert Townsend's Five Heartbeats. What a great film. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes on occasion. And there's this great line that I'll always remember when you guys are getting ready to go and get in the Cadillacs and drive off. The father, I forget exactly who the father was of one of the students, of one of the singers. And he says, don't forget to put a helmet on your soldier.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you get the role in the Five Heartbeats?
Well, it is a perfect segue, the fact that I was a school teacher at the time, because I was a school teacher and I took a half day that day so I could go down and meet Robert Townsend. He was in town looking for actors. And a casting director by the name of Shaman Bernard was casting it. And I went into a room and we talked, and he was like, well, what do you do? He didn't audition actors for that movie. He just had conversations with people. So nobody had to read lines from the movie like you typically do, as you know.
Right.
But he wanted to know the person. That was his process for casting. And so that was interesting. And I told him that I was actually a full-time school teacher, but I also acted in plays at night. And I think he was very fascinated with that. So I didn't hear anything for another couple of months. And then a couple of months later, I got a call from my agent that said, they want you to be in this movie. So that was the process. I was a school teacher, took a half day. Next thing I knew, I was in Hollywood doing what has become, one of the most favorite, or the probably favorite Black movie is The Five Heartbeats. Yeah.
I mean, what a wonderful, wonderful cast also. So
yes.
Harry, I just want to say that we've got probably about a minute and a half before we go to break. And I want to remind our audience that I'm sitting here with Harry Lennix, and Harry he'll be on tonight at 8:00 here in New York on the Blacklist. So make sure you catch it. And if you haven't seen all the 8 episodes, you've got to binge watch, because this show is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for being with us right now, and come right back because we've got more with Harry. I'm G. Keith Alexander, and thank you so much for listening to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. Be right back. Thank you, Kevin. So we're here with Mr. Harry Lennix, and Harry. Now we've talked about your early beginnings, and then at some point in time, you got a little bit disgusted with the business, and you were going to retire. Now, I got to tell the audience, for those who don't know, that when you're a performer, when you're an actor, when you do voiceovers or TV commercials or films, that sometimes that there's a lull, in between jobs. And I always tell people that after I do a voiceover session, that I've talked myself out of a job. So now I've got to wait for something else. So tell us now, there was a lull in your career and you decided to quit?
Well, that's by the way, I love that line. I talked myself out of a job. I did. I was fed up with the kind of lack of any kind of continuity that was acknowledged in my career. By that point, I think I was 47 at the time. So this is going back 9 years or something. And I got sick of paying for parking and going to the same cast of directors, but now auditioning for their assistants or some kid that just got out of school like that. What kind of love is that for, at that point, 25, 30 years in the game. 25 years as a professional at that point. And so, my brother and sister and cops and firemen and all that stuff, after putting in a certain amount of service, you can go get your pension, really.
Right.
get an early retirement and stop dealing with all of the frustration. So I was sick of it, frankly. And, what was out there anyway? It wasn't like felt I was missing out on much. I still don't in many ways. I think that there's a good volume of work out there for Black people now. But, are those the things that I want to be doing really? You have to ask yourself these questions after some time. What is it that I'm beating my head against this wall for 25 years for? Why? To play some secondary character in some not very good show. So, that's that. I was about to hang up my spurs and a call came in, and I said exactly what I said to you, to my manager, a woman that I went to college with, by the way, at Northwestern. Been my manager. And so she said, give me a day. And literally the next day I was auditioning for the Blacklist.
Really?
She said, yeah. She said, listen, you can walk to the auditions right down the street from your house. You can walk there. Just do this one last thing for me. And so I went. I took my little beat up jalopy car over there, which I had literally just driven from St. Louis. I bought it from my brother for $600. I didn't have a car. I had to turn in the lease a year earlier. And, I didn't want to get a fancy car yet or a real car. I just wanted something I could get around. So I drive this car cross country with my buddy Juan. I take that car from my house to the studio a mile away. It's the radiator is bubbling up. And I go I have to put some antifreeze in there. And I go and I audition half a page. And the next day I was flying to New York.
Really?
Yeah, that's how that happened.
What a great story. But see, for the listening audience, that goes to show you that if you have a dream and it stick with it, because that the day that you decide to give up, the very next day could be when that dream could come true.
That's right. That's what keeps us coming back, though, right?
That's right.
Literally, it's like the lottery. Well, I got $1 million invested in it now.
I know I'm gonna win. I
gotta win sometime. My number's got to come up sometime.
That's right. Just $2 more. Let me just put $2 more on this.
That's right.
That's incredible. So okay, so now getting the role on the Blacklist, how has that changed your life?
Well, it's really quite remarkable in this regard. I think that it's given me a lifeline, and it's given me let's just face it, it's given me the resources, the money, frankly, to do my own projects. All the stuff that I've been waiting around to do, I had decided by that point, I got one shot at this. I got a good check coming in for at least one season. So why don't, if I don't gamble it now, when am I going to gamble it? If I don't gamble it on me, then who am I going to gamble it on?
Right.
And who else is going to gamble on me except for me? That's
even a better question.
Nobody else is rushing to do it, evidently. So I put it into a few movies. I'm very proud of them. They're all out in some fashion. The movies are H4, which is a Black Shakespeare movie, Henry IV, part 1 and 2. Yep, it's called H4. You can see it on Amazon or what have you. I got a movie called Troubled Waters, which is streaming on BET Plus, doing well there.
Beautiful.
I play a comedian in it. That was my first one. And then I have a gospel musical, which is almost like, Fantasia, really. Of the Disney movie, of the Gospel of John, and it's called really? Revival, yeah, Revival the movie, and of course that's out on Amazon and many other platforms as well. So, those are the three things I put that would not have happened without the Blacklist, and it's allowed me to be in New York, my wife to be in New York. We love it here. It's great. She has a place in Harlem, by the way.
Oh, really? Harlem,
Yeah,
America.
in Harlem,
Okay.
America. Good old Harlem, USA.
That's right.
And
Okay.
yeah, so it's been great being here, to be honest with you. Just to be reconnected with really the heartbeat of America, I think is New York City. It's this kind of nerve center of the United States of America in many ways, artistically, culturally, politically, in some ways, financially, certainly, showbiz capital, or at least the live performance capital of the world on Broadway and so forth. So I think that it's good to get out of your common environment from time to time, just to shake it up. We have to keep ourselves on the ready, and we have to get out of our comfort zone from time to time, just to keep moving. Yeah.
That is certainly true. We're here in Harlem, America, and we're talking to the world from the heart and soul of New York. And it's wonderful what's happening here in Harlem. Everyone is coming here from all over the world. People are moving from downtown, uptown, excuse me, the culture, the food, the people. It's just exciting to be a part of this Harlem, America. So
it's a great model, GK. I just really want to piggyback on what you just said. Harlem provides great inspiration, a great model for many things. I'm working on a project in Chicago, for example, which is inspired by what happened with that whole redevelopment up there on 125th Street. My friend Eric Pryor is the president or the principal over at the Harlem School of the Arts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, they just did a $40 million whatever renovation up there. They're going to open up to a state-of-the-art facility up there in Harlem. And so, really I'm using that as a model for what I'm trying to build in the Lily and Marcy Center in Chicago, is because, private interest, public interest, the Studio Museum of Harlem. I went to a fundraiser gala not too long ago, a couple years back now for them, where they're raising tens of millions, $100 million, and it's all vitally important. And so I've been in, this is what New York does better than any place, is I've been in a room where in an hour or two, people raise millions of dollars and philanthropic dollars, industry dollars to benefit the society. And I don't think that that's done nearly anywhere at the same level as in New York and in Harlem, especially. So it's a great inspiration to us.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. And right now you brought tears to my eyes talking about Harlem and talking about your project in Chicago, where you are taking this old warehouse and you are creating the African American
Museum for the Performing Arts. Yep.
That's
AMPA.
AMPA. So tell me, it must be in your heart, in your spirit, to curate and collect our culture and history and put it into this one location. Tell us about that.
Well, it strikes me that it doesn't exist already. You know what I mean? I think of it in some ways as the original cultural forms of the United States. Really, the only native forms are those forms that we as a people, Black people, have created. And African American people, if some people prefer. That said, where is that housed? Where are the archives of the cultural legacy left by Black people in theater, in film, dance, television, oratory? Where is that? And I don't think that it exists now. Of course, they have the beautiful museum in Washington D.C., the National Museum of African American History and Culture and so forth. They've got the Studio Museum in Harlem. They've got arts, the visual arts and so forth to some extent.
We also have the Schomburg here in Harlem too.
The Schomburg.
Yeah.
But there's a tenement museum here. There's a Holocaust museum in many, many places. But what we have contributed as a people is our literature, our music, our culture, our expression,
our inventions also.
Yes, but I mean that's my. I can't put everything in this, but I think to some extent The Smithsonian has that under its aegis in DC. I'm sure there's some other ones, but culturally speaking, we don't have a theatrical or a film or a television or a dance museum. And I think those are our cultural forms. That's what helped us get through this 400 or so year, 500 years sojourn in the United States as a people. This diaspora that created as a coping mechanism, as a manifestation of the will to endure this, created expressions that need to be acknowledged, that need to be archived and perpetuated. And I'm not, this is not disruptive. Nobody else is trying to do it, but I believe it is a sacred obligation to have it done. And so I'm going to, I and others, have taken it upon ourselves to do it. Why not?
Why not?
Right. It's necessary and vitally so. It should be there already. And we're going to put it there.
I certainly applaud you for that commitment. And if there are people who might want to contribute financially to your effort, where can they contact you?
At ampamuseum.org. AMPA is AAMPA, museum, MUSEUM.org. There's a donation page there. We have excited a lot of people about this, but I'm excited to share that with you now. We're going to be trying to launch AMPA next, about a year from this September. Okay. So sometime around Labor Day of 2022 is when it's all going to open.
Perhaps I'll come to Chicago for the launch and the red carpet opening.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Incredible. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I have to backtrack though, because my son Taylor Alexander, who's a big fan, TK is a big fan of the Blacklist as well. So I must ask this question for him. What is it like working with James Spader in those scenes that you two have this little rapport, this, how is it working with him?
There's I love this question because I get to compare, I get to use somebody else's words. I think it was Pee Wee Reese who was on the team, Yankee team. I think it was some shortstop on the Yankees. He said every time you were a little tired of playing, you would look over your right shoulder and you'd see Joe DiMaggio in center field, and you liked your chances. And so that's what it's like with Spader. He's going to be ready when he comes to work. You better be ready to play too, because if you're not, you're going to get eaten alive. So it really helps me in my scenes because I like a good game. I like a fast game, and I know that he's going to parry. It's like playing chess with the master, exactly. And so it's really fun. I enjoy those.
Well, but you hold your own, although you're kind of you're conflicted because you don't know if you should be the straight arrow FBI director or if you should kind of look the other way and let him right. get away with some of the things. So it's wonderful to see you do your gyrations.
Right. Yeah, I like to compare it to Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp. You know what I mean? But that makes me Wyatt Earp.
Yes, okay. Oh wow, that's great. So real quickly, because we've got maybe 2 minutes before we take our last break. What should we expect? Season 8, we have this twist that's going on now where Elizabeth has become an adversary. Is there anything that you can share with us that won't give away too much? Well,
there's not a whole lot because that is really the crux of the season. But I can tell you that that will get figured out this season. That is the result of that adversarial relationship will be resolved. We're not going to dangle that, I don't think, for for too long. And I love it. I think other answers to questions will come too. So it's going to be quite momentous. I don't know how any of it's going to turn out myself. I really don't. They haven't told me, but I think that just because we got so much tension built up right now,
yes,
that there's no way that you could just keep that dangling for 2 or 3 months.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to, if you haven't become a fan of the Blacklist yet, you have to check out the Blacklist on NBC tonight at 8 p.m. Central Eastern time, and it's a great show. So, and we got 2 minutes before we go to break, and I just want to remind people, hey, don't forget to go to HarlemAmerica.com. HarlemAmerica.com. You'll see a lot of our past podcasts, and you'll have the podcast of Harry's podcast will be on HarlemAmerica.com, probably in about a half hour or so after this. So if you've missed it all or missed some of it, you can catch the podcast on Harry's podcast page. Also, want to remind you that if you are a Black business owner and you want to be able to build fame, fortune, and followers around your business, come see us at HarlemAmerica.com. We'll handle everything for you. You can have your own business podcast on HarlemAmerica.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. We'll be right back in about a few shakes. All right, thanks. So, General Swanwick, you have established yourself as this the general in the Justice League films, and I was watching, and I was like shocked when I saw Superman's mother come in to talk to Lois Lane, and then she stepped outside in the hall, and all of a sudden it morphed into you. I said, into General Swanwick. I said, what?
Right.
So tell us about that character, and also the controversy of the Martian Manhunter.
Well, all I could say really is that turning into me, or Swanwick, from Diane Lane, I'll never be prettier. So that's the prettiest I could ever be. And so there you go. But this is one of these things, G. Keith, I talk about all the time. I had no clue that Zack had been thinking about this. I think a lot of it was sort of spurred by audience speculation. There's a scene in Man of Steel where Henry Cavill, as Superman, takes off his handcuffs like they're so much, toothpicks, and then he walks over to the screen because he could see through it, the two-way glass. And so I everybody else sort of backs up. They're alarmed, but Swanwick doesn't back up. He deals with them kind of face to face through this two-way mirror thing. And so people start saying, well, what's going on with that guy? Why didn't he respond in that way? And I think that got Zack's mind. Zack Snyder, the visionary director who directed it, I think took that and sort of ran with it. What if, what if this man is endowed with a knowledge or a power that isn't readily apparent as General Swanwick, and then later Secretary of Defense Swanwick in Batman versus Superman. So I think that's really what got his wheels turning. I didn't expect it. I didn't sort of hope that way. I was supposed to be in the Justice League originally, but Zack got the direction from Warner Brothers that he had to cut the script in half, basically. And so my character got left in that cut. And so I wasn't expecting any further involvement. The Joss Whedon version came out in 2017. I saw it, thought it was perfectly fine, you know. I knew it was not what Zack would be able to do with it, just because it was Zack's story and vision. And then so when the fans demanded that he be given his opportunity to put out the version as he would have put it out, his vision, it actually happened. It transpired, and he asked me to come along with him. And so I was, you know, asked to do the Martian Manhunter in the scene that you just talked about. But then he wanted another character to come in, Green Lantern, but the studio was like, well, we're saving the Green Lantern for something else. Please don't do this with Green Lantern. So he allowed me to do the scene with Ben Affleck as Batman, as at least as Bruce Wayne in that final scene. And that was, you know, that was a thrill. That's one of those things that you can't, I didn't even hope to be Martian Manhunter. You know, I'm a 50-some-year-old guy. I got to be the oldest superhero except for Sam Jackson, I guess. Wow. But you know, look, you know, one of my favorite. As you get them, you know. Exactly as you get them. Yeah. But one of my favorite actors is Liam Neeson, you know, because he's 70 years old or whatever, running around and solving crimes. So I want to do like that. That'd be great.
Well, what was it like being in that costume?
You know, here's the gag. If you go on, I'm gonna link it in this chat so you can see it. But I didn't have to get in costume.
You didn't?
No, I mean, as in the last scene with Ben Affleck that I'm telling you about. Let me see if I can get this. I was not in costume. I was in makeup. They put these dots around me, and they did the rest of it from there.
Really? Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing
incredible.
What they could do.
But you shot one of the scenes in Zack Snyder's driveway.
Yeah. That scene with where I turned from Diane Lane into me. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah. And that was primarily due to COVID.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Incredible. Yeah. Boy.
That was in the early days of, it was really like in August or so. You know, so I went for the costume fitting as Swanwick's, as you know, the general outfit, as the Secretary of Defense, and then and so I had to do a fitting, and so they took, you know, they had these major protocols at the costume shop, but the actual shoot, you know, where you had to be tested, and they sent the test with the results, and everybody's got like, you know, a plastic hazmat suit on, so but you know, so I went and picked that up and came ready to shoot in Zack Snyder's driveway.
Wow. So do you think that there'll be a Martian Manhunter series?
I don't know. You know, I would hope so. I think it's a fascinating character. I didn't know much about him until I found out that I was going to be playing him. But you know, I did a deep dive into him. He's a fascinating guy. He might be as powerful as Superman. I don't know. I mean, he's a character that appears in other series. I think he's in Supergirl, for example. He was on a couple of other, I think he's in the animated series, and other people have played him in Smallville. Philip Morris, I think. So I don't know. It would certainly be very interesting. I would love to see that, and I would love to be that.
Okay, so now you're also on Billions.
Yes. I play. I have the privilege of playing Condola Rashad's father on the show, a guy by the name of Franklin Sacker, who's media mogul, something like you, GK.
From your mouth to God's ears.
That's right. A captain of industry in the media business.
There you go. There you go. Incredible. So, yeah, well, I had her mother on, Felicia Rashad, recently, and her mother just got appointed to be the Dean of Fine Arts down at, was it Howard?
Oh, wow. Is that right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The Fine Arts College. She's going to be the dean. Wonderful.
They could not do better, I'm sure, than she. She is a magnificently talented actress and director.
Yes.
And so, you know, a very smart and capable an experienced leader.
So who are some of the, yes, let's get to, it seems like Zack Snyder has a thing for you.
Right.
You're in his animated series that I spoke about at the top of the show called The Army of the Dead.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's Army of the Dead is like a zombie apocalypse, miniseries, and it's got people like Joe Manganiello and Dave Bautista, some really cool people. Omari Hardwick, I think, is in it. But it's an animated piece, but it's done as only Zack Snyder could do it. But yes, there's an army that is fighting to save humanity if they can from some rather clever zombies. So yeah, yeah. But it'll be a lot of fun.
Zombies have gotten smart and clever, cheese and crackers.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a 6-part series. It's, I think, going to be coming out very soon.
So who are some of the artists that you'd like to work with? Some of the actors you'd like to work alongside?
Well, I've got so many that I have not yet worked with, but I can tell you that, I have worked with, we were talking about Keith David.
Right, who was on the show recently as well.
Magnificent actor. I worked for him a few times. I'd like to work with Jack Nicholson before he retires and doesn't do it. I don't think he doesn't seem to be ready to retire. I had wanted very much to work with Cicely Tyson. I didn't get a chance to do that, but she was always a great idol of mine. I'd like to work with Paul Sorvino.
Paul is still alive?
Paul is still alive, still
really?
Working on projects. He did something with our mutual friend, Mike Rusiliano, not too long ago.
Yes, okay,
yep.
Mike.
You know who I have not worked with that we know each other and have had dinner and lunch and so forth. I adore her. I haven't worked with Felicia Rashad.
You haven't?
No. I think we might have been in the same project, but we didn't work together. Like I haven't done a scene with her. I haven't worked under her direction, or she hasn't worked under mine, or a project that I was producing. So I would love to do that. She's magnificent. And there's so many, actors that, that just really sort of didn't make it out of this pandemic, who I've had great privilege to work with. I don't know if your audience should know the great Anthony Chisholm. I regard him as the
Tony.
Greatest living actor, just a wonderful stage actor.
We just lost him recently.
Yeah, lost him recently. It wasn't the pandemic, by the way, that it was natural causes, but not that. But a giant of the stage. I want to preserve him, his memory really at the AMPA museum, as we were talking about. And so there's, not enough time to list all the people I would love to work with and have enjoyed so doing with in the past.
Well, what have you given up or sacrificed to become the Harry Lennix that we know today, movies, television?
Well, this is interesting. I think that, there's a scripture, and I'm not going to be able to paraphrase it terribly well, but it's by the Apostle Paul, who says that he's given up certain things, but he says, not that I speak in terms of lack, for I have learned to be contented in whatever state I am in. I think he says, in whatever state I am in, to be therewith be contented. And I think that that's the way that I look at it. Those things that I have not had, I don't know what it is to have had them and lost them. So I don't know what that would be. I don't regret any of the decisions that I've made. There's jobs, or, there are jobs that I have turned down. There are opportunities that I would not have wanted to have taken advantage of in any case to, advance my career, whatever. I'm not going to do those things. My personal dignity is perhaps the most valuable thing. My sense of what honor to God is. You know, it's very interesting, GK. I just another quick little sidebar. I was looking up the word sin in the Catholic Encyclopedia. And it says that, you know, sin is the qualifications for it. It describes it, but it says that you have to know that what you're about to do is wrong. You have to decide to do that wrong. And you also have to know that it is an insult to the honor of God. And so in those cases where I thought that any of those three conditions would be met, I am proud to say that I have not participated in those, no matter what I missed out on. All I could have missed out on was more fame and more fortune. But I've got those in ample supply, really. And I guess my favorite quote in the entire scriptures is, "What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul?"
Yeah. Well, that is very good. Both of those are very good scriptures to live by. And which reminds me, you didn't want to become just any old priest. You wanted to become the first Black Pope. Tell us about that.
Well, I figure if you're gonna, you know, shoot high, you may as well shoot for the moon. Shoot for the stars and land on the moon. You know,
hey, that's what my mother used to say. Always shoot for the stars, and if you miss, at least you get the moon.
That's right. And I got the moon, so I'm okay.
You got the moon. Wow, incredible. You know, this has really been wonderful. I know we're winding down on time. I don't know exactly how much we have just yet, but I know it's minutes. Harry, to have you on today has been a real joy, and it is. We tried to get the schedule together for quite a while, and I'm so happy that you're able to come and be a part of Harlem America. On my Facebook page and on Twitter and LinkedIn, I have a photo of you and I standing together, and this photo was taken for those folks who aren't familiar with New York restaurant cuisine and New York restaurant luminaries. There used to be a place here called Jezebel's, and Jezebel's was owned by Alberta Wright, and she had a memorial service that, it just seems like all of New York just showed up for this memorial service. It was beautiful. And that's where you and I first took that picture together, Harry, and it's on social media today.
That's it.
And I want to thank you. So we probably have, Aaron, how much time do we have?
I think that's it.
Really?
I think that is, but it was great being with you, GK. Thanks for having me.
Well, my pleasure. You mean we talked ourselves out of
a job.
Out of a job.
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, hey, Harry, look, man, please stay in touch. Next time you come up to Harlem, let me know, now that we don't have to wear masks. Well, although I'm keeping my mask in my pocket because you just never know.
That's true.
But if you ever come up to Harlem, let me know, and I'll take you out to lunch or dinner or something, you and your wife,
Fantastic.
So have a great day and a better one tomorrow. And this will be up on the website in probably about a half hour or so. And I'll send you a link to it as well. And thank you.
No, it was a great time. Thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Right. Have a great day and a better one tomorrow.
You too, my friend. You too.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.